Welcome into AZ Audibles alongside Eric Sorensen and Devin Henry. I'm Jordan Ham. Guys, it's that time of year, rule change time. We've talked a lot about the open division and various rule changes that have happened in Arizona high school football. Another big one has come down in terms of prior contact with coaches and transferring, really buttoning down and really hammering home the point of prior contact. Essentially, any student that participates in a 7-on-7, in an open gym, in what seems to be like even somewhat unorganized type workouts with another school's coach, and that can be a parent, volunteer, that sort of thing. Now that could mean a full year that they would have to sit out should they transfer to that school. Eric, what are your thoughts on this?
This is a really slippery slope for the AAA. I mean, we've seen in the past, even recently, the cream is going to rise to the top, and they want sort of balance in the bigger divisions across the board, but we haven't seen that. You've seen repeat champions, repeat championship games. And when you're trying to police these things, guys, it's going to be very difficult, I think. Who's going to be the bad cop in all this? Like you mentioned, Jordan, it gets very specific. They're really detailing every little thing. And the first thing that jumped out to me was, what do we see a lot in college? Kids recruiting kids. At ASU and U of A, it's always like with the evolution of social media and things like that, communication is so easy now. It's just easy for kids to attract kids to other schools. It may not be the program, it may not be the coaches. And lastly, I think you're just going to see kids transferring earlier. Okay, say you play varsity at school X and you're a sophomore. Kids aren't opposed to sitting out a full year and still having their senior season because of all the different showcase events, the three stripes, and everything going on nationally where they can get the exposure without having to play high school football.
And there's an important distinction for this. That contact has to happen within the prior year. So that's one other thing. It's not like if they're being coached by a youth team, like with Jason Mons and Christian Kirk way back in the day. It's well documented with the Argos that Jason Mons coached this youth football team and they kind of stuck together throughout. So it wouldn't necessarily be that case, but within that past year. But I agree with you. The world's getting smaller. Social media, it isn't so much you don't know the kids you're playing. Because of social media, because of a lot of these workouts and a lot of these assistant coaches on high school teams that aren't making that much money, a lot of time to supplement their income or their full-time job is to go be a trainer. So that can cause a lot of stickiness as well. Look, I know that high school football doesn't want to become, what can be an AAU kind of breeding ground where there's some nastiness to it. But this does seem a little overkill to me.
There's no doubt in my mind.
My question is, when are we going to get to the point where 8th graders and their parents are going to start actually looking around at high schools?
I think they already are.
I know, exactly. And so, as you mentioned, you say, Eric, it's going to start sooner in the year. I mean, do we get to the point where it starts earlier when there's 6th graders and mom and dad says this guy's going to be a stud when he's a sophomore, junior in college, so let's hurry up and let's move to Scottsdale and hook him up at Chaparral or Saguaro or Chandler or something like that. But there's nothing that I love more in high school football than the guy who goes to a school, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, don't care, sticks it out, becomes a great athlete, and goes to a D1 college, even though, let's say that their team was only 500 their senior year. Students want to have the opportunity to go and have more spotlight. The more spotlight you have, especially in the age of social media, the more hits you're going to get on YouTube, on Twitter, the more coaches are going to look at you. But I want to hone things back into the small world that we live in and say, and remind everyone, so few of these high school athletes will play D1 football. And that's where the AIA comes back and says, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that you are not transferring schools because you're planning to go to the NFL. You still need to get that education, because if it doesn't work out at an NAIA college for you, you still need to be able to go back and get your education. This is what this is all falling back on.
Sure.
Whether or not it works or not is a whole nother story.
But I think a lot of kids, and at times, Jordan, I know you and I have dealt with this, parents have a different perception of their student athlete
Totally.
Absolutely.
as colleges and even their own high school coaches in some cases. So who knows where this is going to end. And to your point, Devin, I remember seeing Spencer Radler's YouTube video, I think when he was like in 6th or 7th grade. So it's out there and it's getting younger and younger.
Yeah, and I just feel like there's also no right way to navigate your high school career, or no one correct way to navigate your high school career, navigate your recruitment. There are those guys that have stayed put at smaller schools, and been able to go to the next level, and that's awesome. And for the guys that have transferred that may feel like, for whatever reason, it's a better option for them to go elsewhere, that's cool too in my eyes. You know, it really comes down to the families, what they want to do, and as long as they're going by the rules, I have no issue with it. Now, I feel like these rules are definitely kind of kicking it into overdrive, and there's a lot of stickiness to it now.
If a coach from an opposing team comes over to congratulate a player from another team after a 7-on-7 game, is that considered illegal contact? Where are we going to draw the line on this?
There are loopholes that are loopholes. There are loopholes that aren't really loopholes, which is kind of what we're talking about. And at the end of the day, the AIA is getting this from their court cases this past year and saying, this is what needs to be closed.
And another distinction in these rules, it's coaches that may not have even worked directly with the player, not their position coach. There's a lot. It really opens things up and makes things tough on the parents and the coaches.
I'm glad it's not my problem. I'm still leave it at that. So.
Fair enough. So a lot to digest with this, a lot to dissect. Make sure to keep it to AZ Audibles each and every week as we talk about the biggest issues and storylines in Arizona high school football.